so much, Brynn, for that welcome. I have the honor of introducing the always interesting, incredible Anthony Cody. His collection, The Rendering, explores the landscape of the Dust Bowl, capturing images and archives of ruins, forced migration, dust. But it's more than history. His poetry speaks to us today on the nature of displacement, on the idea of a failing state, on our breaking earth and climate today, on unravelment. If you have never read Anthony Cody before, let me share with you. It's not just reading. His work is an entire experience. This play on form and visual arts and text and language arts, Anthony pushes the boundaries of the written words, the spoken words, the seen words. It makes his work difficult and compelling. It makes his work fearless and a marvel. Anthony Cody is also the author of Whirlwind Apocrypha. He is a 2022 Writing winner, 2021 American Book Award winner, a 2020 Poets and Writers debut poet, and a 2020 Southwest Book Award winner. Whirlwind Apocrypha was named a finalist for the National Book Award in Poetry. He lives in Fresno with his partner, the poet Nigel Fang, and he's also the proud new father of a very cute baby boy. Please join me in welcoming Anthony Cody to the podium.
All right. I see some of you actually are not into Fresno State football. Thank you for that. Thank you for that introduction, Yia. I'm honored to be here with Kathy. 5 months ago, before the little guy even appeared in my life, making a father, she and I were in LA and we said, what if we bring together Fresno? We just made it up. And then Jefferson calls me and says, do you want to come to this thing called Fresno Writers Summit? Kathy Fagan's in. I thought, of course. So I'm here. I'm going to read a variety of things. Let's see if this starts up. It's still searching, but it's going to happen. But I'm going to read about animals today, from both my first collection and my second collection. And then we'll let things happen. Thank you to you all being here. I know I made the football joke, but I'm happy to be here. If anyone has a score, you can text me after. I thought, how do I start with my poems without starting with somewhere where we start? I'm here as an alumni. So what I did was I decided to just grab a few books on my shelves and a few poems online from some Fresno State alumni and make a Fresno Writers Summit, Cento, Pac-Man, whatever that is. We'll see. So I grabbed some poets, all alumni, some friends, some heroes. You'll recognize some of the names, and if you don't, maybe it's time to do a little bit of research. Lawson Fusao Inada, Larry Levis, Andre Yang, David Campos, Andres Montoya, J.J. Hernandez, Sol Vang, Mariah Bosch, Paul Sanchez, Sarah Borjas, Javier A. Lopez, David St. John, Kathy Fagan, Rhoda Avalar, Mia Barazza Martinez, Shirley Ann Williams. The title is from Lawson Inada's poem, A Perfect Fit in This Right Place. For those of you who don't know, Acento just grabbed lines assembled into a poem. We'll let it boot. And I'll get some water. For something's not under this. There we go. We have tag. Also, an inside joke. While taking Connie's workshop, I said everything was going to be a sonnet. If it had 14 lines, This has 15, so it's almost a perfect fit in this right place and time. All night I dreamed of my home, the valley walls so far off nothing bounces back into the alley where small patches of grass grow. To bring rhythm to the theater of rocks, and how can I tell them to stop working, to stop when my part is not yet written, to make more of me. I wanted to speak to me, to see my face. The world is full of scorpions, of serpents, of eyes closed. I know the silk left dry to find sleep in the middle of all this work. Some days I'm happy to be no one, to no one long past, and having neither will nor strength, I can always feel myself itching towards it. Sometimes I'm convinced of my own magic. Nah, my song ain't through. Silence is perfect after all. So like I said, I'm going to read poems from both Borderland Apocrypha and the Rendering that primarily talk about animals. Also, whales arrive, so just be prepared for that. My first book actually talks about lynchings post-Treaty of Hidalgo and sort of extrajudicial harms against Mexican and Mexican Americans that somehow didn't stop at 1848 but continued on until now. And somewhere in the end of the book, animals arrived. So in some ways that helps bridge some of this work. This begins with an epigraph from Scientific American in April 2011. You can cut the spinal cord, crush it, remove a segment, and it will regenerate. You can cut the limbs at any level, the wrist, the elbow, the upper arm, and it will regenerate. And it's perfect. There is nothing missing. There's no scarring on the skin at the site of amputation. Every tissue is replaced. They can regenerate the same limb 50, 60, 100 times, and every time perfect. The actual speaks. Tu me dices, you are losing the animal within. Y yo digo nada. How can you battle a deity? Instead I ask, how many times have you offered your arms? How many? How do you describe infinite? 70 times 7? The nervous system, transmutations recalibrated, spine restacked, eres guardia or guarded? And you welcome silence with the space, with quiet. So I must consider your revival alone, the monstrous opening, and my tied tongue to knees. Enséñame. Indeed, this border, make me explain Xochimilco Canal, nunca libre, brain clipped, dolor, a synapse lodged between dendrites. Una viuda, a retina, nudo, todo, a trucing fissure, a wand. Olvidado es el hueso, a chip abandoned. You finally say, do this in memory of me. As if I could tragar un lago and the cortex could steed, spear, and war the blood. Then you ask me, what remains cuando has deshecho scars and griste the self, gruñidos, yes, growls, or simply virga gathering in drought. Nightjars. Nightjars know this land burns and rebuke rest. Nightjars see tinseled vineyards, raisin paper trays kindle, and observe how fog is just a patient fence for the worker. Nightjars refuse breath, mechanics, firmament, man, God. Nightjars trill murmuration, distraction, consumption, cease consumption, silence, sight of flight, the discovery of flight, the immolation of sky. Nightjars say before trees and trails and migrations, lend lease. This had a name. 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 One of the things I find myself doing is, as writers, often we get gifted things, right? We get gifted journals of all shapes and sizes. This poem actually happened from being gifted by my mother. Hi, Mom. A comic book journal. And so I use that kind of as a starting form, as a comic square, so you can see kind of in very grayscale the boxes that would normally be a comic. And so I thought of it that way, a few sort of compressed areas that were very specific to that scene, but also part of the larger whole. Gura for surviving drought. Be born, coyote. San Joaquin sands water, this central, this valley. Fog that gulps coyote. Concrete to quicksand engulfs this. The mirage is in the emptiness or valley. Orchards thirst until drowned. Almonds and blood oranges. Coyote child coughing in afterbirth. Claws the hard pan, dust the cloud. Themselves ferment. Spill this valley, drags itself from womb. Mother looks away, howls, tremors. Be born, San Joaquin sands, water this central, coyote this valley. Fog concretes, the mirage is in the emptiness, or a quicksand that gulps and gulps, coyote this valley. Orchards themselves thirst until drowned. Almonds and blood oranges ferment, spill, coyote this valley. Trial, it drags itself from womb, coughing in afterbirth. Mother looks away, claws the hard pan, howls. A dust cloud tremors. I'm going to transition to another book to change the screen because I make this hard on myself. Sylvan poem. This actually started from doom scrolling on what was once Twitter. I saw a logging machine make quick work of several trees. I want to say it was maybe 20 seconds, but everything basically turned into just a pile of lumber and kindling within that time. The title is a translation from what was there. Cada día más cerca del fin del mundo, every day closer to the end of the world. In the scrolling, witness a logging machine annihilate a tree into parts. This is social media. 20 seconds. A buzzing fills, strips, apportions the once breathing into a quiet slumber. Echo amplification in ribcage, affixed his crown in the fence coffin light. Of kindling, understanding the mechanism of production. No, the automation is never of scarcity, but of mass replication. Acres never seized or ceased. Slips into the rain-gulped desert, forest, jungle cleaved into the flatness of the fabulous. Not a single trunk will, fuel fossil, outcome, transmittal horizon. Fuel fossil, land choking, no left. Fuel fossil, atmospheric debris, logic deprivation. Outcome stone, institutional silent pile. Outcome effluent, while failure unfavorable. Transmittal levels pre-industrial above 1.5 degrees centigrade. Transmittal visible, dental epic, denial epic, monitoring, horizon error, kernel outward corpus, horizon fall, plume, delta, obliterate wholeness. Where will whale? What was bird? Where forest? What ocean? Where living? Air. mission to write a poem inspired by summer in the middle of the pandemic. And they said, oh, you can pick anyone you want. This is for a UK journal. And I thought, well, I think about the work of Francisco Alarcón and my work of trying to write sort of towards this eco-poetic, and how I myself am still struggling with the Fresno guy from an industrial backlog of lineage, want to write about a thing that's always been maybe elusive to me. You know, the environment, things that maybe, you know, I'm Irish Mexican. I don't know if I can enjoy the snow. I don't know if I can enjoy skiing. Do I belong in Yosemite? Right? Like these things. And then you add in, this wasn't even that for us, you know? People came here and took it. And so I thought about all that, and I'm working through all this during a pandemic, right? And I thought about Francisco X's poem, Jaguar, which is sort of talking about the loss of culture, about being sort of caged, about being looked at and observed. And then meanwhile, on the other side, I've been thinking about this idea of an infinite poem with Juan Felipe Herrera, about how far can a poem go if we take one line and go up and down, and can it be read in every other direction, and, you know, just the kind of things that, you know, pass the time in the pandemic. And this is that poem. Analog Jaguar, digitalization, forest canopy. Cage, 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 jaguar, cage, jaguar, cage, 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 jaguar, cage, jaguar, cage, jaguar, cage, 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 jaguar, cage, jaguar, cage, jaguar, cage, jaguar, cage, 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 cage. Analog jaguar digitalization forest canopy. State ancient autonomous scrub data streams. We question River J, assumes the stumbling damned drinks galaxy animal marrow, still flits jaguar limb, synaptic trickles, mimes, crumbles. Server crossing to the self sky algorithms echo tree inside jaguar. What steady ring last earth has ascending applied remaining jaguar, gone relic, heart palm, saguaro particle. Analog limb, animal the we stay, analog server algorithm, what is gone? Jaguar, synaptic marrow, stumbling, question ancient, jaguar crossing, echo, steady, ascending, digitalization trickles, still damned, river autonomous, digitalization to tree ring, applied heart palm, forest, mimes, flits, drinks, J scrub, forest self inside last remaining saguaro, canopy crumbles, jaguar galaxy assumes data streams, canopy sky, jaguar, earth, jaguar, particle, jaguar, 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 jaguar. Have some water. I'm not going to do much more. What you see on the right is, I don't know why you could really come in here. I asked her if I could write, instead of 7 poems, I could do 7 feet of poems. She said, okay. Never underestimate the kindness of your workshop. Thank you. So this is 7 feet, part of 7 feet of the poem, which also, when it comes to it, it's easier for me to read from the book than the screen, because I also decided not to bring the scroll out of respect for the bit. This part of the scroll actually talks about a whale. In the middle of doing a lot of this work for the rendering, in Brazil, and I'll read the epigraph, a whale breached itself like many feet into the water, off the ocean. And so I started thinking, the whales are coming back, like one does. And now, fast forward to now, the whales are coming back. Also, coincidence? I don't know, I'm sorry. So I'm just going to read part of it. Don't worry about whatever's on the screen. My apologies. This is the epigraph. This humpback was found near the mouth of the Amazon River, some 4,000 miles from its expected feeding grounds. A baffling discovery that has stumped scientists who found it. February 25th, 2019, New York Times article regarding a humpback whale beached in Brazil, 50 feet from the water. This is the poem. Fill in the details. Seeing this painting translates, there upside down. Little humpbacked horse. See whale, not knowing this as poem by Yirchov. But I accept the omission of man, which depicts a czar as foolish. Lest so polar bear, return to the eye humpback, return to Greta teeth humpback, return to air spew humpback, return to watch witness humpback, exert ache to swim up earth to father's hill humpback. I'm going to read two more poems, then I'm going to walk away. The last section of the book is something I didn't want to write. The vowels poems. In the middle of the rendering, I thought, and could hear the future talking to the past. And I don't know if it's the far future talking to the near future, if it's the far future talking to now, or what. But they just kept happening. And I'm going to read it. And then I'll read another one, and then I'll go away. Whoa. David Campos, not here. I'm going to rewrite that sentence. And I'm going to put that on Bogus, because God knows what he's going to tell me next. There we go. This is the last poem in the collection. If I have time, I might try to maybe get things uplifted here so we don't end so. Unless Kathy just wants me just to go, just full darkness, full linen Cohen, I guess. Communicate 130B, the ancestral progeny of Megaterra Novangelae. Held you I once, beached, science, corner incision, pressed index, middle ring, wound and sob. Spinal exposure, column. Say scientist, disoriented mammalian, blunt force wreckage. Say internet's less sight tree, once held I you. Waves I washed, wish you home, wish you home. Wish you home, less relent, more restful. Tell now, greater than, equal to, greater than, not equal to, greater than, equal to, greater than, not equal to. Lied man a once, less relent, more restful. Bucket boiled himself, all bucket boiled, all called all okay, all gone, less relent, more restful, all you. This be home. Stop, less relent, more restful, be this home. Stop, less relent, more restful. This you held once I. Begin you all this, ward sky, land home, nest restful. Yeah, I'll do one more. I lied. As alumni at Fresno State, we should be used to being liars. During the pandemic, I had the opportunity to translate with Carmen Jimenez and Farid Matuk the work of Juan Felipe Herrera. In 1979 to 1981, in the midst of getting his PhD in anthropology, he decided to write poems instead, like any poet would. He wrote it in Spanish, and it freaked him out. It freaked him out so much he couldn't translate it. So in 1989, someone else translated it. It was a small press, 500 copies. There's a really nice copy here in the library if you want to look at that original copy. There's even a better copy in the Levine room. No one should leave me in there alone. So it didn't get very far. So it's something that we've been talking about for years, and we did it. I started maybe in the last semester of the MFA, right as the pandemic was just, we started learning what COVID-19 was, and we had to watch our groceries. And sure enough, I decided to just kind of go full whatever it is that I do with them. And of course, having known him, I asked permission. I want to be some kind of key translator. And this is what came from it. This is the last poem that I'll share with you. It's Earth Song. Because it's a Juan Felipe poem, I want to kind of get us involved. So this is going to require you, okay? And I'll tell you when, but I want this part here of folks to be, it is. So when I do this, can you do, it is?
It is.
It is. Okay. And here, you folks, Earth. You have to step it up because the number game's the same. So, Earth. Okay. So in the second half, I will cue you in when it's time. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for just letting me do whatever it is I'm doing. Kathy, looking to it. Earth Song, for the Campesino de las Cabañas, El Salvador, and for Philip Bourgeois. It is the earth that growls and cuts with the teeth and eyes and cosmic claws of a midnight jaguar, the pharaoh and his trenchcoat militia and death-candy chest. It is the earth that exposes truth with neon borealis and birds and bodies laid bare, and tween mean mugs and molten jaw, the snitch in his pipeline digits and colonizer codes and sweatshop labor. It is a ride or die for downed women and marching men, with basins and plantations, with salt and rage. It is the earth that decides the new orchards, the horizons of blooms of meat, that sheens the skin chills, the rhyming rattler, the fire-breathing guerrilla war, and snuffing out the plague, the web labyrinth, the fake tower. It is the earth that snaps red whips and go-go gadget bodies, unending fingers and invisible limbs that swing and snap, the last altar, the white lie, the voice box, and the blade of the general, the CEO, the salaried scab. It is the earth with its sorrel, its eggs, its seed that spreads its honey and sweat and releases the rain and cleanses with its heat. It is the earth that IDs the formation of jets, the obelisk of atrophy and chrome, the trenches of commerce and mountains of munitions and mercenaries, flag of leaflet debris, wrath at the heart of the encampment, the tongue of the U.S. president forking a mucus of oil. Earth, deliver the women of your blood like suns, the laborers of your limbs like lightning, the gorillas of your mountains like tigers. Amid the gentrified streets, the allies of fear, the refugee camps of Honduras, the barrios of Guatemala, the jails of Argentina, the Lacandon lakes of Chiapas, the districts of El Salvador, the avenues of Chile, the briars of Jamaica, the hurricanes of Haiti, the luminous rainforests forests of Brazil, the humid moonlight of South Africa, the burning, the dying, to build an eruption of joy, to build a chorus of embrace.
It is. It is. It is.
It is the earth.
It is. It is. Earth.
It is the earth.
It is.
It is.
It is. It is. It is. It is.
It is the earth. It is the earth. It is the earth. The perennials. Thank you.
Anthony, thank you so much. I love going to an Anthony Cody reading. It's amazing. It's incredible. All right. Next, I am pleased to introduce the wonderful and eloquently brilliant Kathy Fagan. I recall opening up her book, Bad Hobby, and reading the first poem, and I remember crying by the time I read the last line, and I thought to myself, this book is going to be amazing. Kathy's collection shares personal stories and reflection on death, on loss, on her relationship with her mother and her aging and dying father, on forgetting, on love and pain, on being kind of broken and watching your loved ones break. I love the way her lines move across the page, sometimes short but sharp intensity, and sometimes long with a grief-edged flow. I love her range of language from more concrete reflection to a lovely and vivid, beautiful imagery. It's gorgeous. I also would like to add that this book really resonated with me on a personal level as my father is also has been sick, and I've been having to take care of him, and it's been amazing to also read this through Kathy's experience too. So I just love the intimacy that she's sharing with us, and the vulnerability captured in the portrayal of her family. Kathy Fagan is also the author of 5 other poetry books, including Sycamore and Lip. Bad Hobby is a 2023 winner of the William Award. Kathy also has been published in the Atlantic Kenyon Review and the New York Times Sunday Magazine, among other publications. She currently teaches poetry at the Ohio State University, where she also co-founded the MFA program. So please join me in welcoming the talented and impressive Kathy Fagan.
Thank you so much, Yia. That's a very moving introduction. I really appreciate it. It's always great to find just the right reader for your work, and I think you are, so thank you for that. I also want to thank Anthony for just being a brainiac and not being afraid to be a brainiac. I want to be a brainiac when I grow up, and being a singer and being an alchemist and being a visual artist and all the things. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to Jefferson and to Brynn and to Anthony for the opportunity to join all of you Fresno writers today. I heard the students, I heard the emerging writers. It feels really, really good to come home to the poetry community that gave birth to me. I was here in the late era of Levine, Everwine, and Hanselcheck, and it's incredibly refreshing and happy-making to me to see that this program has gone on and actually taken off with the MFA and the new faculty. And congratulations, you all are really lucky, and you've worked hard to achieve what you have. I'm going to read 6 or 7 poems from Bad Hobby, which came out last September. I think of this book as a memoir. It's a very, very autobiographical account of my family. And I dedicate the reading, as I dedicated the book, to my brother Bobby, who's here tonight. This is the first poem of the book. It's called Dedicated. The way I remember it I caught beauty like a flu, via handshake or high five, or a thank you for your service between the guys at the VA. The one who lurched toward me, touching me, saying, "You like poetry," more vision than question. The one who said, overhearing me correct my Korean conflict-era dad, "Go easy, you won't have him long." Or the one who said, "You watch him like a hawk, just let him go." In the molecular biology lab, each tank full of impossibly small fish bears a sign that says, "You are responsible for your own deads." Plural, sure. The older I get, the more I am reminded of song dedications on the radio. I called Cousin Brucey to send out "I've Got You, Babe" to my parents on their wedding anniversary. When he played them gypsies, tramps, and thieves, Bob and Marianne were understandably confused, but appreciative nonetheless. I myself have had 3 partners in my lifetime, and what I still love best about 2 of them is how I never had to explain that joke. There was all that time listening to radio or TV. TV turned internet. I wish I could dedicate those spent hours now to my mom so she could come back a while. She wouldn't have to know she was dead, like we didn't know then how much time was passing. I would play with her hair like I used to, and tell her stories until she began to doze off, like she used to, waking only to say, "I didn't ever know you loved me, Kath. You never wanted affection from us, Kath." Just like she used to. The wrong song, somehow the right song, playing on and on like a perfect virus. Animal prudence. Mice drink the rainwater before dying by the poison we set in the cupboard for them. They come for the birdseed, and winter is so gray here, the sight of a single cardinal can keep us warm for days. We'll justify anything, and by we, I mean I, and by I mean we, with our man is the only animal who, and our manifest destiny, killers each of us by greater or lesser degrees. Instead of a gun or knife in my pocket, there are 2 notes, on which the dandelion reads one. I don't know what it means, but cannot throw it away. It is soft as cashmere. The other says coffee, chocolate, birdseed. I should be extinct by now, except I can't make it onto that list either. Like toothpicks made of plain wood, some things are increasingly hard to find. Even when he was a young drunk, going deaf from target practice, my father preferred picking his teeth to brushing them. My mother preferred crying. They bought or rented places on streets named Castle, Ring, Greystone, as if we were heroes in a Celtic epic. Our romanticism was earned and leaned toward the Gothic, but liking aimed for names on gravestones far lovelier than our own. It seemed to last a long time, that long time ago. Finches pixelating the hurricane fences, cars idling cars idling exhaust, dandelions bolting from flower to weed to delicacy, like me. Egyptians prepared their dead for a difficult journey. Living is more, I was going to say more difficult, but just plain more will do. Imprudent, unlike art, always falling below or rising above the Aristotelian mean. In France, a common rural road sign reads, "Animal prudence." Purely cautionary, it has nothing to do with Aristotle, but offers sound advice nonetheless. These days, I caution my father more than he ever cautioned me. He hears his oral hallucinations better and shows greater interest. Sportscasters at ball games, revelers at the parties he insists on. He's got all his own teeth, so toothpicks must do the job. His pockets fill with them. There are always half a dozen rattling like desert bones in my dryer. I think of the mason who chiseled his face in the cathedral wall. He couldn't write his name. The yellow bouquets I offer my mother by the fistful also got their name in France, Dents de Lion, meaning teeth of the lion. And this is the title poem, Bad Hobby, which will be clear to you in a moment. From his pocket, my dad pulls a roll of wooden toothpicks bound with a rubber band. We're driving to the VA to have his toenails trimmed, as we do every 3 months. A standing appointment, I used to say to him, but he no longer gets the joke, asking only why I can't do it myself. And why won't I? I've catheterized him twice, but can't bring myself to tend his feet, so like mine, wide with high arches, ballerina feet, my mom called them, none of us dancers. Now that he's lived with me for almost as long as he lived with her, I'm beginning to look like Mom, pissed. The podiatry techs are always good-natured, thanking Dad for his service, raising their voices when I remind them he can't hear. The big toenail on his left foot looks to be made of horse hoof. They cut and file but never hurt him. Some vets smoke outside the building, waiting on rides. Don't ever smoke, Kath, Dad says. It's a bad hobby, scrambling his words, forgetting our ages and both our pasts. The toothpicks he saves and reuses, even when broken, he calls a bad hobby. And the drinking he once was well enough to do. Vets here age out at Korea. Most are Vietnam, Gulf, Iraq, Afghanistan. Since the suspension of the draft, only the poorest of us serve. Like sports, the art of war holds little interest for me, though both are everywhere on display. And in theory, I get it. Offense, defense, spectacle, competition. The Renaissance painter Uccello was commissioned by a nobleman to paint the famous triptych of the Battle of San Romano, a skirmish, really, between city-states fought by mercenaries. More than the birds he was nicknamed after, he loved linear perspective, using mathematics to create a three-dimensional effect. The work hangs in 3 European countries now, in keeping with its divisive history, and is considered Uccello's masterpiece. Painted with egg tempera on poplar, it reminds me of the Tara with its broken staves, like toothpicks, and sexy horses. The gold leaf's intact on the bridles, but the silver of the soldier's armor has oxidized, darkening to ghostly shades. My mother's hobby was painting, is how I know. Uccello's daughter, a Carmelite nun, was described by Vasari as a daughter who knew how to draw. None of her work survives. Hobby derives from a Latin diminutive for horse, from which we get hobby horse, as in one man's sport, another man's war. On the other hand, habit is defined as a sustained appearance or condition from habeo, meaning I have, hold, keep, known in some cases as hard to break or more useful broken, a spirit, a promise, a horse. Okay, I'll try to take Anthony's lead and do something a little bit lighter. This is called the Supreme Farewell of Handkerchiefs, and we'll leave my dad and mom aside for a moment and go to my grandmother. My first time in the sky, I flew with my grandmother. She wore high heels. She'd come from the old country by boat, cleaned for a living, died before retiring from a factory job. The stewardess, also in heels, awarded me a set of metal wings, pin-glued on the back. Some passengers received fresh stacks of playing cards. It was just like the footage you see of flying in the 60s, except it was my real life. I wasn't scared, but held her hand anyway because I liked to, as we rolled, shuddered, and climbed, everyone and everything we loved below us, goodbye, goodbye. At first, clouds parted like cream, then bitch slapped our little plane good, until we'd all had time to consider. Some asking why, I imagine. Some asking why not. How many times now has it happened, holding hand after hand in the air, or pressing both my hands together thinking of theirs. That one's bones, this one's thumbs, another's tremor. Their grace, skin, temperature, pressure. Why not here, in sky that stays sky, Flying like the birds, I cannot stop writing into poems, no matter how many people say, enough with the effing birds. Actually, only poets say that. And we're lying, because there's never enough for us. A juvenile sparrow hopped to our threshold, considered what it might find inside. Don't worry, baby, I said, we're okay. And with a sound like tiny cards being shuffled, it lifted its body back up to the sky. I have 3 more. Is everybody doing okay? All right, okay. This is a short one called School. These days, just before dawn, I find myself asking Mom if I can stay home from school. I teach school now, and Mom is dead. But when I was a kid and said I didn't want to go, she wouldn't make me. She'd pass a cool palm over my forehead and get on with her day. Sometimes we'd nap together, but mostly she went to her job, and I'd be alone all day. I don't remember what I did, and she never once asked me, never once asked why I wanted to stay home, and so I didn't ask myself. She must have trusted me, or not much cared, which may be trust's result. I stayed home because some days it felt perilous to be seen, and other days it felt perilous not to be. And these mornings, it is so much both that I do not tell my students or family, because I think they must trust me, and because I think they don't much care whether I'm alone all day with them or not. Okay, 2 more. I don't usually read this poem at readings, but it's the one poem that explicitly references the state of California, so I thought I would. I didn't realize that the Oppenheimer movie would be coming out the year after this book was published. There's one epigraph by him where he's quoting the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death," a famous quote. And also Emily Dickinson, "Split the Lark," and you'll find the music. And the title of the poem is also from her Scarlet Experiment. Like my country, I prefer to forget most things. Our series of rentals in California, for instance. Zoysia grass blazing straight for the oleander at fence line. Beyond them, holograms of mountain ranges. The Santa Anas, for one, sharing a name with the seasonal winds, as my brother and father share theirs. In memory, they battle tooth to horn, fear rising from their bodies like dust. Ranchers would sacrifice their bulls for the popular bear bullfight entertainments of the 19th century. By 1924, all the grizzlies were dead. They put one on the flag instead. His first time visiting the dementia unit, my brother points at a picture book, prompting our father to name streets and buildings of the city we were born in. Luxury condominiums now, Dad reads flawlessly. 2270 Broadway was the birthplace of the Manhattan Project. After we bombed Hiroshima in 1945, scientists predicted nothing would grow there. The following year, oleander returned, thriving despite the rise of human dead. People love a comeback. Hiroshima was named a City of Peace and World Heritage Site. The nuclear family is encouraged daily to create new memories. You can make anything end. And this is the last poem in the book and the last poem I'll read. I just want to say thank you again to the organizers and thank you to all the Fresno writers and to Anthony for sharing space with me tonight. An act of fault with echoes. This is not, by the way, in California, it's in Ohio where there is an inactive fault line. Rain won't fall, and won't. When I learned the word virga, I learned how full a cloud could be. Every word worth an extended visit. Visit meaning to both comfort and afflict. Small fingers falling, not falling. Smaller even than curbside locust leaves. I had a wife once, Dad says. Whatever happened to your mother? There's a fault near here that hasn't moved in 30 years. We are our own seismic shift. Vertical lines on my fingers could be my mother's. Leaves don't change as much as crisp in this weather. Catalpa twists in place. We cause pain and relief from pain. The rain won't fall. Whatever happened to your mother was probably my fault, Dad says. Remembering is dangerous, he says, when I remind him. My small fingers once recoiled from amoebas pictured in the science book. The breasts of the women at his facility rest quietly on their bellies, ghost bellies, their elbow and earlobes. I lost her somehow, Dad says. The van there reads, Angels on Assignment. Catalpa twists in place. Its many green ears follow a voice as you leave. Visit me soon. I want the earth to lose us first.